Hey guys, today Kimi K3 has been released and Moonshot have delivered a frontier model capability and a lot of people are absolutely in disbelief. In today's video we're going to talk about the release, the benchmarks, the artificial analysis benchmarks, what does it mean, who'll use it, and how do other labs respond. So let's go over to the tweet post they put out introducing Kimi K3 Open Frontier Intelligence, 2.8 trillion parameters, 1 million context, native multimodal. Kimi Delta Attention enables up to 6.3x faster decoding in million token context. Attention residuals deliver 25% higher training at less than 2% additional cost. Built for long horizon agentic coding and evolving workflow. Kimi K3 is now live on Kimi.com, Kimi Work, Kimi Code, and the Kimi API. It's also available on a lot of providers like OpenRouter. What have they put up as part of the benchmark? Delivered a result which puts them just behind Fable and GPT-5.6 Sol on DeepSWE, which we know is the best coding benchmark at the moment. Kimi Code Bench 2.0, their internal one, obviously take that with a grain of salt, on the general agent benchmark. GDPval-AA, my personal favorite index and benchmark, because replacing knowledge work is what we really care about on this channel. Kimi K3, beating Opus 4.8, beating GLM 5.2, beating GPT 5.5, just behind 5.6 Sol and Fable 5. This is major. Why? Because cost per task is going to come into all of this and how I think about it, how you should think about it in your business, and how a lot of people deploying AI at scale are going to think about which model they choose for which task over the next few months. If we look here at the Kimi Code Bench V2, it is achieving a higher score and a lower cost per task. Now, a 3 trillion class model is massive. If we look at the Open Frontier model size over time graph that they've shown here, look how much bigger this model is compared to DeepSeek V4. Helpfully, they've also included Inkling, Thinking Machine's new open weight model released just yesterday. This model is triple the size of Inkling, which shows the difference in scale that the US open weight labs are at compared to the Chinese open weight labs. Knowledge work is one of the things in AI change management that I'm more interested in, and what we can see here is there are so many different examples of how Kimi K3 is generating a lot of charts and presentations and all this sort of thing. It's also doing things like data analysis. And what I think is super interesting is that it is also multimodal, and this is the real risk category for a lot of the closed source labs. They are getting better and better, but I think that especially around video type tasks, a lot of the Western labs are behind the Chinese labs, and Kimi K3 is going to see a really interesting shift in how things are done. So look at this. Kimi K3 edited its own teaser video from 56 source clips. A high-density short video like this would typically take an experienced editor 1 to 2 working days, or a beginner 3 to 5. The pricing on the Kimi API platform is also interesting. 30 cents for input, $3 per cache miss input, $15 for output. It's cheaper than frontier models, but it's more expensive than some other models. If we look at the full benchmark table, look at where Kimi K3 is landing. Similar performance to GPT 5.5x high, a higher ELO than Claude Opus 4.8 on Mac. This means that that gap between closed sourced and open weight models is shrinking, and it's shrinking faster. This has a lot of implications for how our use of different models in our operating model will evolve over the course of the next year or so. Jumping back to here, so we've looked at the release and the benchmarks. We're now going to look at the artificial analysis benchmarks. Now we're going to look at the artificial analysis benchmarks of Kimi K3. Now, in intelligence, it's coming in at number 4. Behind Claude Fable, GPT 5.6 Sol on Max, and GPT 5.6 Sol on X High. It's sitting above GPT 5.6 Sol on High, and Claude Opus 4.8, and Grok 4.5 obviously. This is massive, and a lot of people at the closed source labs will be not panicking, but extremely interested in exactly how Kimi K3 was put together. And even though they might be months ahead on the frontier at the moment, this shows the race in AI is nowhere near over yet. If we look at the 3 charts that artificial analysis put out, the intelligence, the speed, and the cost per task, Kimi K3 is coming in third on intelligence. On speed, it's sitting at a similar speed to Claude Fable 5 and DeepSeek V4 Pro Max, so it's much slower than some other models. But on cost per task, this is an interesting result because this is where the balance of speed, efficiency, cost, and intelligence all come together in actual real-world tasks. And cost per task at 94 cents is higher than Grok 4.5, which we were talking about the other day, and only just lower than GPT 5.6 Sol. So this is super interesting, and we're going to be able to drill down into that over time. If we look at the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index that we've talked about already, this is where it's sitting in position 4. In the Coding Index, it's sitting behind GPT 5.6 Medium and above GPT 5.5 High, but that still has it beating Claude Opus 4.8 Max, Grok 4.5, and obviously Muse Spark X.1. On the Agentic Index, it's sitting just behind GPT 5.6 Sol X High and in front of GPT 5.6 Sol on High, which, when you think about, GPT 5.6 represents the peak of what OpenAI have put out into the public so far. So the fact that this model is achieving at this level on these benchmarks is definitely worth doing your own detailed testing and evaluation, so you can figure out if, for your use cases and how you think about model quality and output, whether it meets your standards and expectations. And already over on X, there are a lot of people finding some quirks and things that may not be working so well with Kimi K3, so we can't just rely on these benchmarks. Remember, we need to think about our own use cases, our own experience with using AI models, and come to our own conclusions based on our own testing and evaluations, not just take these benchmarks as gospel, as interesting as they are. What I'm going to jump to on this one is the AA-Briefcase one, which I think is the more interesting one because on this channel I talk a lot about AI change management and transformation. I write the Substack newsletter, Getting AI to Work. You can subscribe, the link's in the description below. And the Briefcase ELO is an agentic knowledge work benchmark that Artificial Analysis have put together, which is useful in understanding how helpful AI models are at knowledge work tasks. And the result on this benchmark is pretty impressive. It's sitting at an ELO of 1547, which is higher than GPT 5.6 on Max. It's higher than Sonnet 5, which is Anthropic's price competitive attempt to thwart competition from models like Kimi or GLM. So it's already beating them. And it's sitting just behind Claude Fable 5. This is pretty interesting, and I think that over time we're going to see how far people are able to push and tweak Kimi K3. So that was some of the artificial analysis benchmarks. I would suggest heading over there and having a look at these if you are interested in how artificial analysis are collating and building their own benchmarks in understanding the capability of these models and helping us track how different models perform relative to one another over time. So what does it mean? Well, what I think is there's two things. One is Chinese models are just behind the frontier, and this means that the race is not over. You cannot just assume that OpenAI and Anthropic are going to win. This is a very impressive model release from Moonshot, and this means that a lot of people acting surprised haven't been testing and interacting with these Chinese models enough to understand how fast their capability has improved over the last year. What it also means is that cost per task becomes more critical. So if you know, and your board knows, and your stakeholders know, and your investors know that you could be spending millions of dollars on OpenAI or Anthropic credits to get certain tasks done, but for a little bit cheaper, or even significantly cheaper, you can get similar levels of quality output, you are going to start asking questions. Already there has been so much focus on the cost of AI in 2026, and as models like this start shipping and you can access them via zero data retention endpoints based in the US, based in Singapore, whatever, more companies are going to be thinking, wait a minute, why am I paying OpenAI and Anthropic so much money? The difference is that quality still matters. So there will be things which Kimi K3 just can't do. It can't do well. It's not there yet. Maybe the writing quality isn't there yet, maybe some other things that will come out in cybersecurity and coding and all these edge cases will mean that some people will just not use it because they only want to pay for Claude Fable 5 or GPT-5.6 Sol. Increasingly, that is going to be harder to defend. So it means multiple vendor strategies will be more in demand. So that means services like OpenRouter, Requesty are going to be in demand more because more companies are going to want more control over which task goes to which model. So who will use it? Companies outside the US, they are going to vastly prefer a model that is not based in the US after the export control struggles of the last few months. Increasingly, if you think about companies that are not in Five Eyes countries, they will prefer models like Kimi over anything else, really. They're not even going to try Grok or Meta because they can't, because at this stage, Meta Spark 1.1 is actually restricted to US developers only. An unfortunate misstep for them on a strategic perspective, but that's where we are. So, because this is going to be an open weight model, companies are going to use this as a base. This is what a lot of the big fine-tuned custom models have been built on. Kimi 2.6 and Kimi 2.7. Kimi K3 offering this level of capability enhancement means that more people training their own fine-tuned models on their own data, for their own applications, for their own businesses, are going to be building on Kimi. A lot of startups are building on Kimi 2.7 at the moment, so those are going to change to building on Kimi K3, and whatever they have with their data, their fine-tuning, their reinforcement learning, is going to reflect that better big model underlying performance over time. So this represents a real threat for OpenAI and Anthropic. People looking for full sub replacements will also be using Kimi because their subscription options mean that you can get all you can eat subscriptions as well as paying for the API use. So for things like making office work stuff like slides, presentations, documentations, basic websites, marketing, collateral, all this sort of thing, there are a lot of businesses that will look at the price point and figure out that they're getting better value for money with a Kimi subscription than an OpenAI or Anthropic subscription. That's not going to hold true for most people in the West because they can afford $200 a month easily for a Claude Max subscription or a OpenAI Pro subscription. Outside of the US, lots of businesses will care deeply about cutting those costs, and Kimi K3 is going to offer an entry point for a lot of firms that previously would not have considered it. So OpenAI, they just keep shipping. 5.6 is already good, they're going to be fine. Anthropic, they're going to keep pushing for more export restrictions. I would expect their rhetoric to amp up over the next few weeks because they will see Kimi K3 as a massive risk because of how they see the world. So it's going to be super interesting to see how the wider US ecosystem responds. I think Google DeepMind are at massive risk. It looks like they're out of the race at the moment. They need to not drop Gemini Pro 3.5. They basically need to release Gemini Pro 4, which represents a massive uplift in capability, or they're kind of slipping out of the race, which is insane given the advantages they have had and the talent they have. What the artificial analysis indexes tell us is that Google really is behind the curve. Flash down here, 3.5 Flash, behind Nemotron, behind DeepSeek, behind Minimax, behind GLM, and behind Kimi. All of this means that they really need to fix whatever problems they have internally and just get a bigger model out the door fast. For the other Chinese labs, their next models will incorporate Kimi lessons. So as all of these different advances are put in play, all the labs learn from one another. And what we mean is this is kind of like the DeepSeek in a way, where all of the little innovations that Kimi K3 has come up with, the next round of Minimax and GLM and all these other models, the Quens for example, all of those models, they are going to have a jump up again because they're going to incorporate all of the lessons learned from this Kimi K3 process. And what this means is that over time, this trajectory of AI models getting better, faster, and cheaper is not going to slow down. So To recap, Kimi K3 has been released. It is a model which is absolutely dominating on the benchmarks, sitting just behind the top models, Fable and 5.6 Sol. So what this means is that the race between US models and Chinese models is extremely close. Although they might be behind on compute and other things, the reality is they have skills, talent, and a will to win. So if you are betting against labs like Moonshot, treat this as an opportunity to revisit your priors. If this is a surprise to you in any way, I think that you need to take a step back and ask yourself why. Why are you surprised? They have so much talent, they have enough compute to at least train models, and they have enough compute to serve models. So why would you assume that these labs aren't going to keep shipping really good models over time? I look forward to doing more testing on Kimi K3 myself. Hit the like and subscribe button or drop a comment below. Have you tried out Kimi K3 yet? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments.